Susan and Alex, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
So could you go ahead and just introduce yourselves for our audience? Most of my listeners are on the East Coast, so just tell us who you are and how you got into bartending, I guess would be a good place to start.
Cool. You want to start?
No, you go.
All right, I'll start. My name is Susan Eggett. I have been bartending for about 15 years, but some of my work life has also included summer camps, higher education, animation. So one thing I found about myself is whatever I was doing, I loved kind of helping a team come together and achieve a goal. So currently now I've found myself with really bad knees, and I loved bartending, but my body won't let me do it anymore. And so Alex and I kind of connected over that and wanted to find a way that we could continue to work in this industry, but perhaps it's more in that team building kind of creation realm. So that's kind of been a little bit of my origin story and how I've gotten to where I am right now.
Yeah, great. And what bar are you coming from, or like where's some of your more recent places that you're coming from in San Francisco?
Most recently helped to open a wonderful program called Last Rites. The thing that excited me the most about that program, I have a background in tiki bartending, loving that mid-century formulas of Don Beach and Trader Vic. And Last Rites was doing something different. Their concept was not the religious iconography of indigenous cultures. They wanted to embrace the mixology without kind of taking advantages of cultures that weren't their own. And so I really got excited about that opportunity to take those really beautiful drinks and bring them to San Francisco in a new and different way. So a little bit darker, a little bit less beach, more adventure and jungle. And so that program was really beautiful. Was really proud to be a part of it. Before that, I started bartending in Florida and Puerto Rico, but am an Oakland kid, so this is home. This has always been home, and the opportunity to help create a program in Oakland now has been probably all of those little pieces building to this moment.
Yeah, you seem very energized by it.
Yeah. It's an energizing city. It's a hustling city, and that's something that I identify with.
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, so I've been, I retired from bartending about 2 weeks ago.
Congrats.
Yeah, I think that we could find a study to do because it seems that Susan and my body broke down at exactly the same time. We know this for a fact because we grew up around the corner from each other that we didn't realize until recently.
Maybe it was that corner. Maybe there was something in the water over there.
Seriously. I mean, I'm saying a study should be done because, shoulder for me, but still, very physical job that I've always loved doing, and I think that was part of the draw. I play basketball, and the team aspect of it seemed like a fit. The other options I had, doing nighttime work when you're trying to audition and do the New York City actor thing, it's pretty boring. So started as a busboy barback, and actually funny tragic story for that person. Mid-shift one night, someone said something they shouldn't have said to me in front of the owner of the bar, and he swapped us on the spot, and that was how I started bartending. It was at 11 on a Friday night, and we were slammed.
Oh.
And so now my barback hates me forever, and I barely have any idea what I'm doing. But the energy level, and just, the people watching, the interaction, I think has always been the main draw for me. I'm a writer, so you get a lot of material with doing these jobs. So, I mean, I've done dive bar, sports bar, high volume club, like Red Bull vodka style. I've worked in Miami, San Diego, New York, and here back and forth a few times.
Nice.
And yeah, I think it wasn't until there was that shift of the craft bartender being hospitable that came back in style that I was really able to hop back in seriously. Until then, it was just all right, this is just how I make my money, But when it was if I know how to make some drinks that you've never heard of, then you're at my whim. I was never a fan of that thing. So
yeah,
glad we got past that. And yeah, I mean, now it seems like I don't know, it's blowing up even more. Than I like the way that we still find ways to increase and grow this world is crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And I what I really like is the commonality that you both share with the team aspect, right? The basketball and the just the overall emphasis on teams. I love watching basketball. I love how it's a group of people who all have different skill sets, and it's like, I look at a soccer or a football match, and they all kind of look there are roles, but they kind of look very similar in terms of body. But then you look at a basketball court, and it's just like, a 7-foot guy, a 5'9" guy pushing the ball forward, or girl, and it's that's why it's one of my favorite sports to watch, because it's a game of mismatches, and it's about finding those puzzle pieces and fitting them in where they work best. And I think for this project that we're here kind of covering as the main part of this interview, I think that fits really nicely. But before we get into this beautiful room that we're in, before we talk about what this program's all about and what it's bringing to the Oakland cocktail scene, you're going to have to catch me up, because I don't have a whole lot of experience with the West Coast in general, and with Oakland in particular. I've stayed in San Francisco a few times. I've had the luxury of checking out some great bars there, in the tiki space as well. I was a big fan of Zombie Village. I know Doc from judging at ADI, and last night I was actually at this beautiful bar called Wild Hawk. And that's a beautiful place as well. So I've got a bit of a sense, maybe a core sample of the San Francisco scene. Can you both kind of walk us through Oakland and what the cocktail scene has looked like, maybe from when cocktails started getting popular to the current date?
Sure. Yeah.
I think some cities, every city is going to have programs where people really care about what they're doing across the country. Some cities like San Francisco, New York, New Orleans, they're going to have a more concentrated amount of those. Growing up here, I always referred to San Francisco as, I would just say, we're going to the city. And there was always just a little bit of a more polish, if you want to say, because it's like, oh, we're going to the city. And Oakland was always home. And so there was always a little bit more of familialness that that still resonates today. Helping open a program in San Francisco, I noticed it was a little more of a scene, and it felt a little less like a neighborhood. And I that's something that Oakland has held on to, and a lot's changing. There's a lot of new businesses, big businesses, a lot of new housing developments coming in, and I part of why I think we're both doing this is we want to hold on to a little bit of that familialness and that neighborhood feeling, that you're creating a community even within the bar. So cocktails, I think, have translated from that. It's always been a little still crafted and still delicious and still thoughtful, and a little less theatrical, if
fussy.
A little less fussy. And there's a place for it all. But I've always felt like Oakland, there's always been, we're a little more friendly. The sun shines a little bit more, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But there's a level of friendliness and sharing where no one's trying to be better or one up anyone else, and you're all just kind of getting in and having this experience together. So for me, I always enjoyed that environment, and I enjoyed kind of being able to cultivate regulars and create an atmosphere where people can drink for a lot less at home. When we worked on a documentary for Oakland Cocktail Week, we featured the dive bars, and that was what one of those owners said. He goes, "You can drink for a lot less at home." He goes, "You're coming to a space because you're looking for that connection." And so I think Oakland has always been really good through all of the changes at kind of fostering that. And cocktail-wise, I love that 2 Oakland kids have gone and traveled and then come home, and we've brought all the things we've learned, all the people we've been lucky to work with, and and experiences and places, and now we're able to kind of let that trickle out from us, and there's just another level of education just by being who we are and wanting to share that with people. But yeah, there's definitely been a shift, but Oakland has always just felt a little bit more like a neighborhood, like a community.
Alex, what do you think?
I agree. I think I have a theory behind why all of that is, and Oakland has always had this like big city mentality, right? But it's tiny.
You've got your own football team, at least for the time being. Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
But no, it's kind of like my French bulldog. Like, she sometimes will see a huge dog and think that like she could probably take that dog, and like, Phoebe, you can't. But and a lot of times Oakland does win. You know what I mean? Because it's heart, and it's heart unmatched. So there's two byproducts of this kind of big city mentality when you're a small city for me. One is everyone is kind of held in check. It's kind of self-policed because of how small it is. So as soon as something leaves someone's lips, it's down the block, and you can get a reputation that's really bad very quickly. And if you get a bad reputation, no one's going to want to come and sit in front of your bar, which means eventually no one's going to hire you. And in other cities, like Miami, for example, there's a million jobs, and it doesn't matter how you act because you can get another job tomorrow just from working at another place. Here, we don't have that luxury, also partly because we are just now building this culture, right? It's like you're talking about New York and how they have all of these bars. It's like the amount of one style of bar they have is more than all the bars we have in Oakland. We haven't hit yet the part where we're going to be breaking into like these subcategories of different styles. Like right now, Oakland is stoked to just have this new level of craft where it's legit, people care, the passion is there, then the inventiveness is there, and yeah, it's building. Everyone can see it. It's cool.
I like that. I like a lot about that, actually. That's a really cool theory. And what just occurred to me as you were talking about, like, kind of not lagging behind the pack, but like not having to deal with that segmentation, is that I have been gravitating more and more in my life as trying not to be on the bleeding edge of anything, trying not to be the first person through the breach. And that's kind of nice because the people in San Francisco and like the bigger cities have done a lot of the hard work of opening up certain areas of access when it comes to like what stuff you can serve. Some of the, and certainly on the East Coast in some places, in some of the older states where there's blue laws, some of the regulations. So it's kind of nice to be able to walk into a situation where you have a lot more possibilities on the table for what you can do. I think that takes some of the competitive pressure off and gives you a little bit more time to be creative, kind of in the way that you were talking about, Susan, of like the bee leaving the hive, going out, landing on a bunch of different flowers, and then coming back with that completely unique pollen pattern and contributing that to the flavor of the honey that the hive makes. I think that's it's a really unique opportunity and a cool space to be in. So let's talk now about this venue that we're sitting in. First thing I thought when I came through the door was like, man, I love this green color.
Yeah.
What is this space? Who is involved in it, and what's the project?
Cool. Chef Nelson, he is Dominican, grew up in New York, and then got his first restaurant here in Oakland, made that happen. It's Alamar. And so he wanted to create a bar space celebrating his Afro-Dominican roots and creating a cocktail forward program with beautiful bar food to kind of complement that.
Yeah.
So tapas style food menu. There's a few programs in Oakland, Starline Social Club, Kontiki, that have delicious bar food, and I think we're adding another layer to that where it's a cocktail bar first, and then you're gonna just be blown away by the richness and the beauty of the food. So he approached me, and he wanted support because he is a fantastic chef, doesn't know as much about what happens behind the bar, and he approached me to help kind of curate this program. And then because of our connection and how much fun I had helping with Last Rites, collaborating with a buddy, and then Alex and I were talking about our body ailments, and I said I have to get away from being behind the bar, and I'm really excited to help Chef achieve his vision. And so what he wanted to create, very tropical, very lush, very rich, not a tiki bar, but kind of exploring the rums of the world, the agave-based spirits of the world, the piscos of the world, and then letting people know, like, hey, you can also do these really interesting things with your gins and your whiskeys. And so the idea to help him create that concept was exciting for me. To collaborate with someone that I very much respect in every sense of the word, of the way that he works and the way that he supports a team and crafts cocktails. I was like, that would be really fun for me. So I got involved. I looped my all-star here, and we've just been helping chefs' identity kind of come to life.
Yeah.
And usually when I craft a cocktail, I start with a concept, and then I think about what formula do I know that can execute that concept, and then it's what flavors will be interesting and work well. So I always think backwards, and then I think with this project as well, we were thinking backwards. We were like, okay, this is the overall concept. This is what we want people to feel, and then how do we figure out that in every step? And I think the programs that are successful find those through lines, because when you sit in a place, it feels seamless. The music, the lighting, the cocktails, the food. Like if it's been thoughtful, then you are comfortable and you come back. And so I think we've been trying to help Chef achieve his vision, and his palate is fantastic. So thinking of what are those culinary angles we can bring into the cocktail program, and it's been a really fun challenge.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Alex?
I mean, it was a no-brainer for me, obviously. As soon as Susan started talking about it, I think my eyes probably got a little bigger, and then I could see the gears turning, and it's like, wait a minute. And I think literally the next day she was like, yeah, so that thing I was talking about, we're doing that. I was like, cool. Consulting, it's not something that so before Starline, about 5 years ago.
And so just to give context for our listeners, I don't think we necessarily introduced it too well.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that and then go back to where you were going.
Yes, so about Starline?
Yeah, just give us a sense of what Starline is, what it does.
So we are a community center when we are really doing what we're supposed to do, but we are a restaurant, bar, music venue. And it started because of its destination, or its location. It was kind of considered a destination spot because it's off of the Telegraph Strip. And it was like, oh, I have to walk all the way down this block to get there. But, to be fair, 5 years ago, that block was not the nicest block. It's crazy 5 years later to know, like, this building that's going to open up around the corner is going to be, like, I think the tallest building in Oakland. Yeah. We can't help but kind of feel like we had some part in that, on positive and, kind of remorse, just looking around at what's happened in the community. But Starline was a really interesting project just because it was 3 different bars at once. That's what I had to work with to start. It was figuring out one at a time, and then
physically 3 different
literally
bars.
3 different bars. So like there's the main restaurant bar, then there's like kind of the side area, and then there's the ballroom.
That is a lot.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of like learning how to juggle, right? It's like you're just throwing one ball, then you're throwing 2, and then eventually you're just like, I don't know. Sometimes you drop a ball or 2. But it was a lot of fun, and I I mean, in all of the consulting projects that I did in San Diego previous to that, I think it kind of helped me get ready for Starline as much as I could. Nothing could truly like prepare you for that. But it's, I mean, looking back, it was a really, really fun, interesting time, and it gave me a lot of new tools to work with coming into a lot of situations that are going to come up for us in the future.
Yeah. So that's Starline. Fast forward to this project, which is called, I don't think we've mentioned it yet.
We should
probably name the bar.
Sobre Mesa.
Sobre Mesa.
So in Spanish, it kind of translates to over the table. And in thinking of a sense of the camaraderie, the fun, the silliness that happens after the meal is over. So Chef describes it very beautifully when he says, you know, sometimes before you eat, you're like, oh, you're a little anxious, you're hungry. There's kind of some uneasiness, maybe feeling, and then you've had your meal, you've had a few drinks, and then after the meal, that's when some of these really special moments can happen.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, that feeling is at the heart of what he wanted to create. And so a really fun opportunity to kind of create that space where you are having folks come in and feel at home. And so like kind of the ultimate level of hospitality, the ultimate way that we know we're doing our job right is trying to create that sense.
Seems like a very different focus than Starline, right? It seems like a very like lots of eye contact, lots of like, you know, like instead of trying to figure out a synergy, you're trying to kind of isolate what the energy of the place is. How has that been so far?
I mean, I think it's different. It's a different challenge in the pace, right? You know, because like you're saying, the intent, trying to make sure that you're like pinging that chord with each individual guest is much different than kind of this focus game of numbers. You know, it's like, I know that 4 out of 5 people are gonna like this, so I can, you know what I mean? Where here it's like, no, every single person, we're gonna knock their socks off every time they come in, because that's the level that we know we can achieve with having a controlled space. You know, the way, I won't go too much into it, but the way that Chef kind of has his vision for how the service will flow really dictates kind of that interaction of someone getting a not over-forced but very attentive, detailed experience, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But very different from what I've been doing.
Most definitely. Yeah, man, I've really enjoyed listening to your stories about this. I'm not a bartender.